Father Daniel Mercer had performed exorcisms before, but this one was different from the moment he received the call. The request didn't come from the church. It came from a shaken police officer in a rural English town who whispered over the phone, "Whatever's happening in that house." It isn't mental illness. The house belonged to the Whitmore family. A quiet couple, Thomas and Rachel Whitmore, and their 19-year-old daughter Hannah. Neighbors said the family had once been cheerful, deeply close, the kind that waved every morning. That changed after Hannah returned from a weekend trip to an abandoned chapel outside town. She never spoke about what happened there. She just came back wrong. At first, it was subtle. Hannah stopped sleeping. She began sitting upright in bed for hours, staring at the wall, whispering words Rachel couldn't understand. Objects in the house started going missing and reappearing in impossible places. The smell came next to rotting earth mixed with iron, no matter how much they cleaned. Then the scratches appeared on the inside of Hannah's arms. Words carved into her skin she claimed she hadn't written. Words in a language no one recognized. Doctors found nothing. Psychiatrists blamed trauma. But when Hannah bit through a metal tongue depressor without reacting to pain, they refused to keep her. That's when Father Mercer arrived. The moment he stepped inside the house, the air felt dense, like breathing through wet cloth. The temperature dropped sharply. Hannah was locked in her room, humming a tune that didn't repeat the same way twice. When Father Mercer entered, she slowly turned her head and smiled. She called him by his full name. He had never told anyone. Her voice wasn't layered or theatrical like in movies. It was calm, intimate, almost loving. She asked him about the boy who drowned during his seminary years. The one whose death Mercer never forgave himself for. Rachel collapsed, crying. Thomas demanded they stop the session, but Hannah laughed. The exorcism began that night without cameras, without church approval. Father Mercer knew if he reported it, the church would delay. And something in that house was growing stronger by the hour. As prayers filled the room, Hannah's body stiffened unnaturally. Her spine arched, lifting her off the bed without support. The lights shattered. The walls began to bleed, not liquid blood, but dark stains seeping outward like veins. She spoke again, not as Hannah. It said it had been invited. At the chapel, Hannah had found something buried beneath the altar. A ritual circle etched into stone, unfinished but powerful. She stepped into it. Curiosity was enough. That was the invitation. The entity explained that it wasn't possessing her. It was anchoring itself through her. The room shook violently. Rachel screamed prayers she barely remembered. Father Mercer felt his chest tighten as something pressed against his mind, forcing images into his thoughts. Cities burning, families turning on each other, churches collapsing inward. The entity didn't want Hannah's body. It wanted the house, wanted roots. Hours passed. Mercer's voice grew hoarse. Blood ran from Hannah's eyes. When he demanded the entity's name, the room fell silent. Then it answered, and every candle went out at once. The name was not meant to be spoken. The sound of it made Rachel vomit. Thomas's ears began bleeding. Hannah's jaw cracked open wider than humanly possible, and her voice dropped into a frequency Mercer felt more than heard. The entity promised it would leave, but only if someone stayed behind. That was the price. Thomas volunteered immediately. The entity laughed. He didn't want the father. He wanted the priest. Mercer understood then why this exorcism had never been meant to be recorded. Why no church documents mentioned it. Why his name had been called before he entered the room. This wasn't a cleansing. It was a transfer. At sunrise, the house went silent. Hannah collapsed unconscious. The smell vanished. The walls dried. The entity was gone. So was Father Daniel Mercer. The Whitmore family moved away weeks later. Hannah never spoke about that night again. But neighbors reported seeing a man standing in the upstairs window of the abandoned house late at night. A man wearing priest's clothing, staring, waiting. And if you're still listening, understand this: some exorcisms aren't meant to save the possessed. They're meant to contain what cannot be destroyed. If you want more stories they never want you to hear, subscribe to HollowEyes now. Because once you know the truth, it already knows you're watching.